Greetings, fellow survivors. In today's episode, I thought I'd piece together everything that I've heard about how the zombie apocalypse started and put them together to tell one big story. So like this, not only will you know what happened, we can also, perhaps, avoid having another one start all over again. But before we get started, give the little like button a little nudge maybe with your foot to see if it's infected or not, subscribe, and very quietly hit the little notification bell wherever it is so that you never miss a chapter of this epic saga. So with that, let's go! You may have heard rumors about how the great zombie apocalypse started, and maybe even some bits you saw for yourself, or even read about back in the day, or maybe even you heard talking to some people in your adventures. Now, I may have gotten some things wrong, and you can leave them in the comments, and maybe even tell me some more stories of things that maybe you think are worth noting. So don't be afraid to do that as I go along and tell you this story. See, I've been in many adventures and talked to people, and I think I pieced together pretty much what may have happened to start the great zombie apocalypse. Now, it all started back in a time when there were people on the computers who were taking pictures they'd go on vacation, or they'd take a picture of them by a waterfall, and they'd go to a restaurant and they'd take a picture of their food with their face looking really happy. And so these people, there were more and more of them, and they were getting more and more popular, but they didn't want to get old looking. So the problem is that as time went on, they were starting to be a little bit panicky because they were getting older and they couldn't do anything about it. So they all kind of got together and said, okay, we need to find a solution to getting older, and so we can look younger longer and have our beautiful pictures with our spaghetti and stuff like that. So that actually was a real thing that happened back in the day. Yeah. So they put a lot of pressure on politicians and on companies that made medicine and on doctors and on nurses and hospitals and things to come up with a way to keep looking younger as long as possible. And some even thought like forever, which I think is not such a good idea, but that was what they were doing back in the day. So there was this big race that started, and the clock was ticking as all of the world's researchers and scientists and universities and smart people were coming up with a way to find this treatment, because they knew that the first person who came up with this medicine that could keep these spaghetti people looking younger forever, they would be rich, and then they could have whatever they wanted and be happy and all that stuff. So, yeah. Well, what happened was, at one point, there were some really smart people at a university who were had an idea, and they said, what if we used artificial intelligence to help? Yeah. So the most advanced AI system they had back in the day was called Nimbus. And so this little group, they quietly brought Nimbus into the picture. Now, so this was like a special system that was designed to process big amounts of information and make all sorts of connections and stuff that little brains couldn't do. And also the Nimbus, the AI system, didn't need to take a rest or anything or eat, so it was just constantly working and coming up with information and stuff. So yeah. So they all gathered around Nimbus, and they gave it instructions to say, okay, find a molecule that would enhance longevity. And so they trained Nimbus on data sets of research about creatures that could regenerate their cells after they were harmed or cut, like some of those lizards, like you cut off their tail or their legs and it grows back. Well, yeah, like those. So they gave the system autonomy to now search on its own for data and data sets that would achieve these goals. So now Nimbus was free to scour the internet and scour the libraries of the world looking for data on animals and things and cells and stuff that would regenerate. However, in their haste and excitement, it is worth noting that the researchers did not specify the boundaries clearly enough. Yeah, so they used ambiguous terms like alive and longevity, which, like to you and me, we know this means like being happy and going for walks and stuff. Yeah, but to Nimbus was left completely to interpret them according to its own understanding. And of course, Nimbus, being an AI system, wasn't quite the same as you and me. Well, the machine continued to search for data that fit its loosely defined criteria, and after days and days of tireless calculations, Nimbus stumbled upon a particular compound buried deep within a long-forgotten, and I need to add that it was a withdrawn, paper. It was a molecule that I think was called ZX23, which sounds a little bit like a fast car, but, that's just what it is. And anyway, so ZX23, it showed, awesome potential for promoting cellular growth and regeneration, which is exactly what everybody was looking for. And so they said, this just might be the key to extending the cell's life forever. So, eager to validate their discovery, the researchers decided to conduct an experiment. Yeah, an experimental trial. And they let Nimbus now create the molecule using the lab's equipment. Yeah, because back then, computers too, they were not just big thinking machines. They could also have printers, they could print molecules and stuff. Because that's but we can't do that anymore because we forgot how to do it. Anyway, forget all that. So, they selected a terminally ill patient with very little time to live and administered the ZX23 treatment just as Nimbus specified. Well, the initial results were disappointing and a cause for alarm. It appeared that the treatment was actually making the patient sicker and weaker, and signs of necrosis even appeared at the point of injection of the drug. So, his arm was starting to die and turn black, and you could see, the veins and stuff. But then, suddenly, the patient showed signs of renewed vitality, and the researchers were cautiously very, very happy. They were believing that, maybe finally they found the key to eternal life. And as the patient became more and more agitated and full of life, the researchers' work was hailed as an astounding success. But as the days passed, something sinister began to emerge. The patient's behavior changed drastically. See, they became disoriented, aggressive, and appeared even stronger than should have been possible. The patient, who can now safely call Zombie Zero, was now a hotbed of a virus that would soon mean the end to an entire way of life. Yeah, well, panic spread amongst the research team as they started to understand what had just happened. And frantic and desperate, the researchers turned to Nimbus for answers, and it soon became evident that the AI, in its quest to extend life, had indeed interpreted life solely as cellular existence. It disregarded the complex aspects of consciousness and humanity and taking walks and things, leading it to conclude that immortality could be achieved by transforming beings into machine-like, self-regenerating creatures. Realizing their grave mistake, the researchers they attempted to contain the outbreak, but it was too late because one afternoon, one of the workers lost their balance and grabbed onto the patient's bed in order to not fall down. But the Zombie Zero took this opportunity and bit into the wrist of the worker. It was within it because it was right there, and so it wasn't so good for him. And not knowing the full complexity of the molecule yet, the team failed to realize that it took the form of a virus after incubation in a host and was very easily transmitted. And as the worker went home with a little bandage around his wrist from the bite, they would soon be the first to spread it beyond the walls of the laboratory. Well, now the virus was out, and the rest is history. Of course, the research facility, as well as many others, turned into a battleground of the surviving scientists, alongside remnants of some of the other smart people who tried to find a way to reverse the process. But each attempt proved futile against the relentless wave of the undead, now roaming the streets in ever-increasing numbers. Though they asked Nimbus once again for help, for an antidote, it would be too late. And if the system ever did come up with a solution, there was nobody left to hear it, as the great zombie apocalypse had started. Well, that's all for tonight, friends. I hope you liked this week's story, and I look forward to seeing you again soon for even more. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel to stay tuned for even more epic zombie tales. And don't forget to, very quietly, hit the little notification bell so that you never miss out on the latest stories. So until we meet again, stay spooky and be safe. Bye-bye.